and thank you for joining us for the Broncos live post-game show. I'm Phil Milani alongside Andrew Mason. Matt Boyer will be along shortly with some live interviews inside the Broncos locker room as the Broncos win the season opener, make it the 7th consecutive season opener that they've won, 27-24 against Seattle. Mace, what do you think of how they played today?
Well, you know what? You'd like to have the interceptions back, obviously, but last year there would be mistakes and they'd lead to more problems. This year, mistakes were contained. It didn't get bad. Case Keenum, resilient today. 3 interceptions, yes. Also 3 touchdown passes. The Keenum to Emmanuel Sanders combo that we saw worked so well in training camp in the preseason. It was out there today. Emmanuel Sanders, with double-digit receptions. Philip Lindsay, electric, 102 yards from scrimmage. That 29-yard catch and run to get the Broncos on the board. A lot to like. And then, of course, Von Miller with, I won't call it a career game. That's Super Bowl 50, but this is pretty daggum close. 3 sacks, 3 tackles for losses, 4 quarterback hits, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. If he isn't the AFC Defensive Player of the Week this week, I don't know who can be. Outstanding, amazing game for number 58.
A great start for the Broncos. Let's go to the highlights and show you how it all happened. The Broncos down 7 in the first. Case Keenum finds the hometown kid, Philip Lindsay, a 29-yard touchdown. That ties the game up 7-7. It's the first undrafted rookie to score in the season opener in team history. Second quarter now, Emmanuel Sanders picking up some yards after the catch, flips into the end zone, makes it 14-10. Broncos take the lead. In the second, the monster comes alive. Like May said, he had 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. The Broncos up 17-10 at halftime. And then in the third quarter, Justin Simmons once again showing his jumping ability, leads to a Brandon McManus field goal, 20-17. Broncos on top in the third. And then in the fourth, Keenum rolls to his right, finds Demaryius Thomas, and just gets 2 feet in bounds. The Broncos up 27-24, and that would be the final score. What a game by the Broncos, back and forth. A lot of emotion in this season opener. Both teams really going for it. Demaryius Thomas had a few drops to start, but came up with a big touchdown.
Yeah, it was a rough go early for Demaryius Thomas, but he, like the team itself, resilient. That's the kind of thing you expect from a 9-year veteran like that. And we've seen it from Demaryius Thomas. Remember that 2015 game against the Patriots? He has some drops, but there he is making the big catch down the right sideline. Similar today, Demaryius Thomas, good when it counted. Cortland Sutton made some plays as well. You can go all over the roster and find quality performances. Don't even forget about Marquette King.
Yeah.
He delivered exactly what you expected him to. Placement punting inside the 20 when you need it at most. Just an outstanding day. And again, the thing I liked best, Phil, the team had some adversity and overcame it. What was the biggest problem last year? They'd have early adversity and all of a sudden a snowball would become an avalanche. This year, they had adversity and they contained it like a fire. You contain the fire, prevent it from spreading somewhere else. That's what they did today. They were able to rebound from their mistakes. That sort of resilience will serve them well the rest of the season.
What do you think of the balance on offense? The Broncos had 146 rushing yards. He had passing yards, 324. Pretty balanced attack.
And I like the fact that even when the run wasn't working, they didn't abandon it. They stuck with it. Also interesting how much work Philip Lindsay got today. Now, Royce Freeman is the starter. I think he'll be the number 1 as long as he's healthy. But looks like kind of a hot hand situation. Philip Lindsay was the hot hand today, so you want to ride that as long as you could.
You are watching the Broncos live postgame show. I'm Phil Milani alongside Andrew Mason. We'll be shortly joined by Matt Boyer, who will be live inside the Broncos locker room. He'll get a player or two, and we'll try to bring that to you as soon as possible. The Broncos winning the season opener 27-24. Mace, the defense also impressive.
Yeah, you start with Von Miller, of course, with the 3 sacks, but you saw Bradley Chubb get in the sack column early, splitting a sack with Darian Stewart, came on the rush on that first possession. Good to see him make plays. Shaq Barrett with a sack. And the thing about that Barrett sack, you look at what set it up. You had Chubb and Shane Ray coming up the middle. This was the last play of the first half. And then Barrett kind of cleans it up. But that was the NASCAR package. We saw a bit of that today with 3 edge rushers working in. The sort of flexibility that you have with a guy like Bradley Chubb who can go on the edge and go inside. You mentioned Justin Simmons with a pick. Solid game for him, I thought. And also, Adam Jones, playing quite a bit as the number 3 cornerback throughout the day. Thought he had a solid day, too.
He did have a solid day. Let's go inside the Broncos locker room where Matt Boyer is joined by Philip Lindsay, who had a great game today against the Seahawks. Matt?
Inside the Broncos locker room with Philip Lindsay. Philip, What a debut for you in your regular season premiere. Touchdown on your first catch. Take me through that play.
Yeah, I mean, we've been running the play all week, and it just pretty much opened up like it was supposed to. I think the defense got mixed up itself. It was a great block by, I want to say, Deshaun Hamilton, and I was able to scoop through there, and we had to get the touchdown.
What does this do for your confidence going forward? You got the silver and black coming in here next week. What does this do for you going forward?
I mean, it's just one game at a time. So I don't look at the team. I just go out there and I play ball. And I think that's all what we all do. We go out there, we prepare. So tomorrow we're going to start preparing for them, and that's it. I don't care who it is. I don't pay attention to that.
Congrats on a great game.
All right, thank you.
Phil, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Yeah, Philip Lindsay, 102 total yards from offense. A great debut for the Denver hometown kid. Mace, for fans here watching today's game, cause for optimism moving forward?
I think so. I mean, I think really the only thing you're concerned about is the interceptions. Very unlike Case Keenum when you look at last year, 7 picks in the regular season, 3 today. Now, of course, he had 2 picks in the NFC Championship, 1 in the week before. So if I was talking about this in baseball terms, I'd say maybe there's a little bit of regression to the mean for Case Keenum over his last 3 games. It's not something that I would panic about. I don't think you're going to see that over the course of the season, maybe getting it out of his system a little bit. But again, the fact that he and the offense rebounded from that. They would make a mistake, they'd come right back and score. I loved early in the game. You have the interception. Seahawks score 1 play later on the touchdown pass from Wilson to Will Dissly, and then the Broncos march right downfield, get the touchdown to Philip Lindsay at the end of that series. That is the one sequence that showed me that this year can be different than last year.
And let's go back inside the Broncos locker room one more time. Matt Boyers with Bradley Chubb.
Inside the Broncos locker room with Bradley Chubb. Bradley, you can't have a much better start than you had. Coming off the edge, getting that sack. Take me through that play.
Oh man, I had 2 tight ends on me. It was a call with me and Vaughn both rushing. And so I saw 2 tight ends blocking me. Saw Russell dropping back. Shed the tight end and just tried to get there as fast as I could.
It seemed like it had sack after sack, after pick after sack. What was the key for you guys on defense?
Man, just doing our job of being us. I mean, you got guys like Von Miller getting 3 sacks a game. Justin Simmons going up, catching picks and stuff like that. I mean, just a whole out team effort. I mean, team defensive effort, and we just try to do our best.
Congrats on a great game.
I appreciate it.
Phil, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Matt. Bradley Chubb in his debut, the 5th overall pick, gets a half sack. That's a pretty good start for this defense, getting the pass rush going. We saw Shaq Barrett get in the mix. Vaughn had a tremendous game, and Bradley Chubb too.
Exactly what you want to see. You've got 4 outstanding edge rushers. You can rotate them in and out. They can keep each other fresh. I think we're going to see Shane Ray get involved at some point next few weeks as well. Even though he didn't have a sack, he helped set up other sacks, other hurries. Good day for all 4 of those guys.
Mace, other than the interceptions, what do you want to see the Broncos correct here before the Raiders come to town next week?
Work against the tight end. I mean, Will Dissly had a $105 on 3 first-half receptions. Now, I thought the Broncos cleaned that up a little bit in the second half, but at the same time, you didn't have Doug Baldwin to worry about because he was out with a knee injury. So that's something the Broncos are going to have to work on. We know that covering tight ends has been a bugaboo for them, quite frankly, over the last few years, and we saw tight ends make plays on them in the preseason. It's something the Broncos have to get fixed because you start seeing Jared Cook, maybe Hayden Hurst in a couple weeks in Baltimore, and Travis Kelce in week 4 for Kansas City. They've got to get that right.
Well, you're watching the Broncos live postgame show. When Vance Joseph heads to the podium, we'll bring that to you live. Get his thoughts on the Broncos win as they beat the Seahawks 27-24. The Raiders, of course, will be coming in on a short week. They play in that Monday night game against the Rams. What will you be watching for that night?
Well, I'm going to watch to see if they have much of a pass rush without Khalil Mack. Now, Seattle did cause some problems with its pass rush today, but the Raiders, you take Mack out of that equation, I don't know where the rush is going to come from. So I think the Broncos are going to have some opportunities on offense. And then on their defense, the Raiders have a variety of targets. Derek Carr is going to spread the ball around. I think he's going to do that. So similar challenges without the scrambling threat that you had this week. I'd say probably a better challenge in terms of the Raiders' quality of pass catchers than you saw from Seattle today. So the defensive backfield and the linebackers will have to step it up in coverage.
Yeah, the Broncos saw Doug Baldwin, the Seattle dynamic wide receiver, leave this game with a knee injury. That clearly had an impact on the Seattle passing game, although they did pass for 242 yards. Yeah. Mace, what did you see from the Broncos secondary? That had been a big question mark coming into the game.
Well, Chris Harris Jr. is his usual self. I love the fact they got him involved in pass rush. I know this is something that Chris has been aching to do. They used to use him on corner blitzes early in his career. Dennis Allen and Jack Del Rio did it when they were defensive coordinators. They've gotten away from that the last few years, and I can only imagine he is ecstatic about being involved with the pass rush, and I think it's the kind of thing that you may see a lot of going forward on a, or maybe not a lot of, but maybe you see it once or twice a game. You see Chris Harris Jr., Bradley Roby on the blitz.